Hello YouTube and dear learners, I'm back with the detailed tutorial of Tableau where I've tried picking up an interesting topic for this tutorial. People are flying to US for masters and one of the course which have grabbed an attention is MIS, Management Information Systems. So in this tutorial we'll be trying to analyze candidates applying to universities which offer this wonderful course. We'll be trying to bring out insights using their GRE English scores and whether they were admitted or rejected to a set of universities. There's a lot more. We'll be dividing this tutorial into two parts. In first one, we'll be building the views using the calculations and some technical part. And in the second one, we'll be building our final dashboards. It's gonna be an amazing learning journey for you. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Before jumping to creating some appealing views and amazing dashboards on Tableau, let's get a glance about the set of data which we have for universities in the United States offering MIS, which stands for Management Information Systems. We have name of candidates who have applied for MIS. We have universities. We have a lot of set of universities, right from Arizona State University, Boston, Sunny Buffalo, Texas, a number of universities. Then course, which will be mandatorily Management Information Systems, which is MIS. Then we have year, in which year a particular candidate has applied for MIS in university. We have data right from 2011 to 2020. Then we have season, for which season the candidate has applied for MIS. We have fall and spring. Then we have status. We have four set of status: admitted, applied, interested, and rejected. If a particular candidate has applied to a course by sending some token amount, this could be coming as applied. If a candidate has been admitted by university, we have a status admit. If a candidate has been rejected, this could be status as rejected. And we have interested. So let's say you're confused between 4 to 5 universities delivering the same course. So you can just click on an option which states interested. So this will notify the universities that you're interested and they could share some details, more details about the course and all that stuff. So it works in the same way like you're on Amazon. If you're loving some product and you're confused between 2 to 3 products, instead of directly buying the product, you're just clicking on add to cart so that you can have an information about which course you have selected or which product you have selected. You can research and then move forward to buying that particular product. Then we have a GRE score. What was their GRE score when they applied to a university for MIS? Then we have English test. We have two set of English tests such as IELTS and TOEFL. And what was their scores for TOEFL and IELTS? Then we have undergrad scores, like what was their score in while they were doing bachelor's or some set of courses in India. This could be in person or CGPA. Like in India, we have this concept of CGPA, which has a total of 10, like 7.63 out of 10. Out of India, if you consider, they have a concept of GPA, which is your total score gets aggregated into by 4. So out of 4, your record will be there. Then we have work experience, how much work experience you have while applying for this particular course in that university you're interested in. We have set of records from 0 years of experience, like a complete freshman, you're out of your bachelor's and directly applying to a master's, till we have set of people who have work experience around 144 months. In dashboard, we can just convert this month into a year by dividing these records by 12. So yeah, this is a set of records which we have, which we'll be importing in our Tableau. So let's move towards our Tableau dashboard. So guys, we are on a Tableau screen. I'm using Tableau Public 2021 version. We have two different versions of Tableau, like Tableau Public and Tableau Desktop. I've given a very detailed information about what is Tableau Public and Tableau Desktop in a link given in top right corner of your screen. So in a simple sense, Tableau Public is a free version of Tableau, while Tableau Desktop needs a license key to access. There are a lot of advantages and disadvantages of both. So for now, we are using Tableau Public, a free version, and I would rather recommend beginners to download Tableau Public. Now, since our university's data file is in CSV file, I'll be clicking on text file to import my data. If the file is in Excel, I would have clicked Microsoft Excel. So I'll click on text file and you can just navigate through your file in a particular folder you have in your desktop. You can see I have this particular file, USA Universities MIS. I'll click here and this will take me to a data pane. So we are on a data pane and let's discuss about how data pane benefits us. So on the top section, Tableau asks like need more data, drag tables to relate them. So what does it mean? So let's say for example, you have another set of data which talks about the location like latitude and longitude about a particular university. So for example, you have university in this US university's data and also you have university ID which uniquely identifies each university and you have another data which actually has that university ID and it talks about latitude and longitude of that university. So you can join both of these tables by dragging that over here by using left join, right join, or relationships, and you can join both the data tables to create more insightful visuals. So basically, this section helps us to join two or more data tables, and you can also add different data tables by clicking on this add option. You can bring your text file or CSV file, Excel files, and number of files, and these files will be reflected over here. And in the bottom section, Tableau gives a basic overview about your data. So by default, it gives you a set of 100 rows, an overview of 100 rows. You can change it to, let's say, I want to just see 10 set of records of my data and hit enter. So you can see, or let's say 5. So you can see only 5 set of records have been displayed here. And in the left section, you can rename your data set and Tableau automatically assigns each of the field name with a particular data type. So for example, name university course in my data has been automatically assigned as ABC, which stands for string, and year has also been assigned as ABC. But now I want to convert year as date data type. So I will just click on ABC and I want to convert this into date. I don't want string. I can click on date and you can see you have automatically converted year into a date data type. Similarly, GRE scores, test score, undergrad scores has been automatically assigned as numeric type. If you wish, you can change it to string or any other data type. So this was all about the data pane, and let's move towards creating our first visual. So considering this being basic dashboard tutorial, I will focus on basic views with fair requirements and how you can achieve those views in your dashboard. So in this first view, we have three set of scores. I have IELTS score, I have TOEFL score, and GRE scores. Now, if you observe the data, I have an independent column of GRE scores. If you see over here, I have GRE score, which is an independent column which talks only about GRE scores. But if you see the column besides, which is test score, we have 107, 106, 109, and 7.5, which is an IELTS score, while these three on the top are the TOEFL scores. So we don't have an individual column to assign each of the scores. So if you see for test score, 107 is a TOEFL score over here, and the fourth one is IELTS score. So first, let's try to segregate them into an independent column. So I'll have a separate column which talks about TOEFL score. I'll have a separate column which talks about IELTS score. How you can achieve this? So I'll create a very simple calculated field. I'll click on calculated field over here. I'll write as IELTS score and I'll put this particular formula here. So I've written a simple query that if my English test is IELTS, since it's a string, I'll assign them in a double quotes and then test score. So wherever it will found English test as IELTS, it will output me the test score for that particular record and I'll click OK. And similarly, I'll do that for TOEFL. So wherever it will find TOEFL, it will output the test score for that particular record. And I'll rename this column as TOEFL score. And I'll click on OK. Now you can see on the left hand side, my IELTS score and TOEFL score has been created. A separate column or independent column of these scores are created. You can see in this overview how these columns look like. Okay, you can see over here for TOEFL scores, I have 107, 106 and 109, and wherever there are IELTS score, it outputs null. Now we have scores with us, like IELTS score, GRE score, and we have TOEFL scores. How can we use these scores of individual candidates to extract insights about universities? If you also remember, we have a separate column which talks about whether a candidate has been admitted or rejected. What if we use that data to see which set of candidates have been accepted or admitted by a particular university considering their GRE, IELTS, and TOEFL scores over the years? I think this could give us a great insights. So let's work on that. So firstly, I'll bring my year in my columns, and you can see all the years ranging from 2011 to 2020 are there over here with us. Now let's say I am interested to see how are GRE scores varying over the years. I'll bring my GRE scores in my rows and I'll click on entire view so that it could occupy the whole space. Now you can see in 2011 its GRE score is 664, and in 2015 it's 5000, and 2018 is whooping 2,45,000. So it's a bad representation of presenting GRE scores, because if you see, we are taking a sum of GRE scores. And let's say in 2018, we have a data of lot of candidates. In 2018, like maximum set of candidates are in 2018, it will just sum all the values throughout. That's the reason we are getting a value of 2,45,000 for GRE scores. Better representation, just change the aggregation to average. And now this is a fair representation of presenting GRE scores over the year. Now this data is fine, but I'm seeing a lot of blank space over here just because my axis is considering all the values for my average GRE scores right from 0 to around 340, 350. So what if I want a magnified view? For that, I'll just right click on this axis. I'll click on edit axis, deselect this include 0 option. Now I can see a quite magnified view of all my data points and as well the trend of my data points. Now this data is quite incomplete because it is giving me an average GRE score across all the universities. So let's filter down to a particular university. So I'll bring my university field in filters and select, let's say, Boston University. Click on apply. Now here I can see average GRE score throughout year for just Boston University. Now again, this graph is quite incomplete because I want to see a set of average GRE scores across set of candidates who have been admitted or rejected. So for that, as you know, I have this data in my status option. I'll bring my status in filters and let's click on only admitted and click on apply. So you can see the graph drastically changes, and you can see in 2015 average GRE score of people who have been admitted was around 303, while in 2018 average GRE score of people who have been admitted in Boston University is around 306. So it's an average GRE score. The values could be around 305, 307. It's an averaged value of GRE scores. Now what if I want to see GRE score along with IELTS score as well as my TOEFL score? You know, we have segregated this as individual columns. What we'll do, I'll just drag my TOEFL score right besides average GRE score. So by default, aggregation of TOEFL score has been taken as sum by Tableau. Let's convert the aggregation to an average. Now you can see I have two separate views in a single graph. So average GRE scores and average TOEFL scores. What if I want to bring both of these graphs in a single view? For that, what you need to do, this is a very important concept in Tableau. So what we do is we right click on a second axis and click on dual axis. So what dual axis does is it combines both of these axes into a single view. You can see average GRE score have an axis of around 303 to 310, while I have a secondary axis of average TOEFL score which range from 0 to 110. Now you can see these graphs, these axes are not synchronized. You can see 308 gets aligned to around 89 or 88, while 306 gets aligned to around 45, 46. What if I want to synchronize both of these axes? So for that, what I'll do is I'll just right click on this average TOEFL score. I'll click on synchronize axis. You can see options right below dual axis, and you can see both of my axes have been synchronized. So you can see 100 has been aligned with 100, 220 is getting aligned to 220, which gives an actual good measure of all these axes. So what I can do next is I can just hide this axis by disabling show header, and I have two separate axes for GRE scores and average TOEFL scores. But now the problem is when I'm synchronizing the axis, I'm getting a vast difference between average TOEFL scores and average GRE scores, which is like not a great representation of showing line charts. I can play with various type of charts, like I can play with line charts, I can try bar charts, I can try, let's say, uh, Gantt charts, or whatever you want, you as per your requirements. So what if we convert this into a pie chart? So what we'll do is we'll click on pie, and now this is showing me two different entities, one for GRE, one for TOEFL. What we can do is for pie chart, when you click on pie chart, you need to mention an angle, like on which basis you want to segregate your pie chart. So for that, you can put GRE score or TOEFL score. So let's say I'm putting GRE score. But now I'm just getting GRE scores over here. What about TOEFL scores? Now to tackle this particular situation, what you can do, I'll just go back. Now instead of using a single measure in my rows like average GRE scores, what I'll do is I'll extract my whole measure values in my rows. So I'll just exclude this average GRE score and include my measure values. So when I'm pulling my measure values in Tableau, Tableau will automatically pull all the measures in my measure value section. But now since I'm just interested in average GRE scores, IELTS scores and TOEFL scores, I'll just deselect all the other measures like excluding test scores, undergrad scores, and work experience, and I'll change the aggregation to average. So I have three different graphs which talk about average GRE scores on the top, average TOEFL scores in the middle, and average IELTS score at the bottom. Now the issue is I'm getting all these three line charts in a one color, but I want to segregate them separately. So what I'll do is I'll bring my measure names, which is already included over here, in colors. So it will assign each of different measure in a different color, and I can change color based on my requirements. So I can just change any color, let's say traffic light and assign palette. You can see all these three colors get changed as per these color codes. Click on apply and you get some different shades of colors. I'll just hide this indicator. Now I want to convert this into a pie chart. I'll click on pie and you can see these three different entities. Now last time what issue we face is when we pull the individual measure values in my angle, it was just showing graphs for an individual measure. But now when we are bringing measure values, which is a combination of all these three values, measure values like average GRE, IELTS and TOEFL scores, let's see what happens. I'll bring this measure values in my angle and you can see my pie chart has been created. So in the meanwhile, I just reset my filters. So again, let's select any one university of our interest. So let's select University at Buffalo Sunny and click on status as admitted. So I have a set of records, set of average GRE scores and average TOEFL scores of the candidate who had been admitted to University at Buffalo. Now instead of pie chart, what if we select a donut chart? Or how can we create a donut chart? Like donut chart is a pie chart hollow in between. This looks good. So what we'll do is I'll click on new calculated field and I'll just click on, let's say 1, and again I'll put 1 over here, or let's rename this as donut and just hit OK. You can see my donut calculated field is being created, and I'll bring my donut in my rows and set my aggregation as minimum. And I'll again bring my donut in my rows and again select my aggregation as minimum. So I have two individual graphs over here. Oh, it's been assigned as average. Let's click on minimum. So I have two different graphs over here, one with minimum donut and another same do minimum donut. Now let's right click on the second axis and click on dual axis. You can see both of my graphs have been overlapped over each other. I'll just hide my headers. I'll hide the header of my primary axis as well. Now you can see I have two separate sections, minimum donut and minimum donut 2, which is on the top, and minimum donut 2 is at the bottom. So what I'll do, I'll just remove all the angles and colors from my second donut chart, and you can see they have been converted to gray. I'll just change the color to white and increase the size of my first donut, which is on the first layer of my donut chart. I'll increase the size, and you can see our donut chart has been created. I'll just increase the size a little bit. Increase the size of my second donut chart. You can see my graph has been created. Now what I will do is I will just remove the zero lines, which is rendering in background. Click on format, and you can see in the grid lines, you can select these grid lines. So in the rows, I have these grid lines. I'll click on none, and you can see my grid lines in a background has been removed. Now building these pie chart is fancy, but how can we make them more insightful? Now I want to see with these average records of GRE, TOEFL and IELTS, I want to see how many students or how many number of candidates or records were involved which resulted in these values. So what I'll do now, by default Tableau computes automatic generated fields that counts the number of records in your data. So I'll bring this in my second donut chart, which is a hollow one. I'll bring this in my label. You can see this average record, average TOEFL score and average GRE score has been generated based on just a single record in my data, while these values, average GRE score of 312 and average TOEFL score of 80 and IELTS score of 5 has been generated by cumulative averaged value of these 19 set of data. So what I'll do, I'll just edit the label as number of records and the value. So I'll just reduce the size a little bit to 8 and just bold this value. Click on apply. You can see the number of records is 1, number of records is 19. Now I also want to enable labels around these values, like I want to reflect these 311 and average TOEFL score of 111 on this class, on this view. What I'll do, I'll click on the first donut chart now, and I'll bring my measure values in my labels. You can see all the values associated with my each of the pie has been reflected. Again, if you want to reduce the font, increase the size, what you can do is simply click on the drop down, click on format, and in font option, you can just change it to, you can change the size of your font, you can make it bold, you can change the color. It depends on you and your requirements. So pie chart is ready, but I'm not convinced well with the colors. So I'll just click on my first donut chart, I'll click on colors, and then I'll change the color palette which I'm using right now to lightning water. I'll assign some colors to my dashboard. And here we go. I think this looks more better. Now I want to change the sheet name. I'll just change my sheet name to average scores year wise. So as soon as you change the sheet name, this will be automatically assigned to our title name as well. And I'll just disable this year because we are showing years over here. So I don't need a particular name as year in the labels. So I'll just click hide field labels for columns. I think that's all for this view, which shows you a trend of average scores over the years for a selected university and status. Now coming towards the second view, what I have thought of is now what if I want to see for a same set of selected universities, like the university of selected was University of Cincinnati, like how many candidates have been admitted or been rejected or have applied for a particular score, for example, GRE, TOEFL, or IELTS, which could help us analyze what was the selection criteria of that selected university. For example, what if I mean, what were the GRE scores of candidate who got admitted or rejected by a university? So that you will have an idea of GRE scores you need to achieve to get into that university. Isn't that interesting? Now, again, before proceeding to this view, I just want to clarify that there are a lot of criterias to getting admitted by universities. Even by writing a best SOP, you can crack the best university of the lot. But these problem statements which I'm showing you right now are just for the dashboard purpose so that you will get a hands-on the familiar data and learn Tableau. So please don't rely on the values. It's purely educational content. Now, how can I present a visual when I can see how many candidates have been admitted and rejected by a particular selected university? So for that, I will pull my status from my tables to a columns. So you can see all the four status have been appeared here. And then I'll bring my GRE score in my rows. So by default, Tableau has automatically computed a bar chart. So whenever you bring a dimension and a measure, Tableau automatically computes this as a bar chart. As per your requirement, you can change this bar chart to a line chart or an area chart or any chart as per your requirement. So currently we'll keep as a bar chart. Now I want to select a particular university. So again, I'll bring my university option in my filters. And previously we had selected University of Cincinnati. What we'll do, I'll just type Cincinnati. I'll click on this university, click on apply. So you can see average. Okay, I need to change the aggregation to an average. And let's click on entire view. Okay, cool. So you can see average GRE score who have been for the people who have been admitted is around 313, applied is around 313 as well, interested is 309, and rejected as 309.278. This is all great, but I want to represent this data in an individual data points where each of the data points represent a single candidate who have either admitted, either rejected, interested, or applied. So for that, what I'll do is I need a dimension which I can put it in details, tooltips, or size. So what I'll do, what if we include work experience as well in our visualization? So let's say if I'm putting my work experience, firstly I'm changing this bar chart to, let's say, shape. And then if I'm putting my work experience months in size, you can see a smaller size of work experience that represents basically lesser work experience, while a larger size of a circle represents higher work experience. Now, instead in months, work experience in months, what if we convert this months to year? So for that, we'll create a calculated field as work experience in years, and I'll include my work ex months, and I'll divide this value by 12, and I'll replace this instead of work experience in months. And if you hover this, you can see work experience, minimum work experience over here is 12, maximum is 51 years, which is really strange. But now what we can do, this can be an outlier as well. So what we can do, I need a dimension which will actually convert this average GRE scores to individual data point, where individual data point represent each set of candidate. So what I'll do, I'll convert this work experience in years to a dimension. Now you can see my work experience in years has been converted from green pill to a blue pill. So green pill represents measures, blue pill represents dimensions. So I'll bring this in my size, and you can see each of my data point has been segregated to a circles which are smaller and larger, where small circle represents a lesser work experience and larger circle represents a more higher work experience. Now again, I have a blank space over here. I'll just quickly disable include zero from my axis so that I can get a more magnified view over here. Now you can see for a University of Cincinnati, for average GRE scores, people or candidates who have been selected in the university range from average GRE score of 307 to around 319. So these are a set of people who have been accepted or admitted by university, and the people who have been rejected have GRE score less than 3 not around 305 or 3 not 10. So these are the set of people who have been rejected. Again, there could be hundreds of reasons for you being accepted or rejected by a university. But again, if you closely observe, you can see all the people who have been selected have a higher work experience considering the size of circles we have. And while here, people who have been rejected have lesser size of circles that represents lower work experience. So this is a set of data. Now the circles look good, but what if I want to separate shapes and colors to each of my status, like a different set of colors and shape for admit, vice versa for my reject, interested, and applied. To assign separate colors and shapes to individual status, what we can do is we can pull status in colors. So you can see individual status has been assigned a different color. You can change color by clicking on edit colors and select number of data points, number of color options over here. So let's keep green color for admitted candidates, and let's assign red color for the rejected candidates. Let's assign applied as yellow and interested as orange and click on apply. You can see the data has been changed accordingly. Now what if I want to present some different shapes to individual status? Again, in similar way, I'll pull my status in my shapes so that, and you can see individual shapes assigned to each of status. Now you can change shapes by clicking on shape, and there are a lot of default shapes available by Tableau itself. So let's keep arrows. So for admitted, I'll put an up arrow. For rejected, I'll click an down arrow. For applied, let's see what are the default things. For applied, let's click on star, and for interested, let's keep a plus and click on apply. You can see my data has been changed and I have some different colors and shapes for individual status. Again, I'll just disable this field label, and to remove these grid lines, I can right click on the data on the view, click on format, click on these grid lines, and in the rows I can just disable my grid lines. Now this dashboard is serving the purpose, but now what if I'm also interested in average IELTS scores? I want to see a distribution of candidates with respect to IELTS scores and TOEFL scores as well. So what simply we can do is we can pull my IELTS score and pull it in my rows, and you can get a distribution of IELTS score with respect to status. But what if I am also interested in TOEFL scores? Will you do this again? So this is not feasible for users to change measures one by one and see what are the distribution of data with respect to the status. So here I'll be bringing a very important concept of parameters. So parameters is something which replace the constant values in our data. So here we'll be putting a dynamic table, a dynamic option to select either IELTS, either GRE or TOEFL. So if a user selects GRE, he will be able to access the distribution of GRE data. If he clicks on TOEFL, he'll be able to see what is the distribution of TOEFL data. So how we can do this? So for that, you need to click on drop down. You need to click a parameter. So here we need to assign a data type as string, and let's rename our parameter as, let's say, metrics. And here in allowable list, I'll click on list so that we can manually add a list. So here, as I said, parameters replace constant values. I'll be creating a field which will be having values like GRE, TOEFL, and IELTS, which will be displayed as GRE, TOEFL, and IELTS. You can change them as well, and click on OK. So you can see at the bottom left corner of your screen, a parameter has been created named metrics. Now again, I'll click on create a calculated field, and I'll create a calculated field as select metrics. And here I'll write a simple calculation as case metrics. So I'll type that when user is selecting GRE, then output me values for GRE score. I'll copy the whole statement and paste it twice. So if user is typing IELTS, then this should output IELTS score. And if user is typing or selecting TOEFL, and it should output TOEFL score. And I'll end the statement. Here we go. And you can see my calculation is valid, and I'll click on OK. Now, also I will assign as average values, since I'm always interested in average of all the metrics. So I'll change the calculation that if GRE is selected, then input average of GRE score, and likewise for IELTS and TOEFL. And finally, average of TOEFL. And I'll hit enter. You can see my select metrics calculation is available here, and I'll simply replace my sum of TOEFL scores with my select metrics. Now, if I'm enabling my parameter, like if I'll click on show parameter, my parameter is available here. So by default, it is selecting GRE. Now I can toggle between TOEFL and IELTS. I'll click on edit access and again disable include 0. Magnifying view. So if I'm selecting TOEFL now, you can see a distribution of TOEFL data. If I'm selecting IELTS, I'm seeing a distribution of IELTS data. Isn't it interesting and amazing? While playing with this dashboard, I just observed that when I'm changing my matrix to TOEFL, because of this one single record where select metrics is 0, obviously no value of TOEFL could be 0. This could be obviously an outlier. The whole record, the whole set of data is not getting populated correct. So I need to exclude this value. So what I can do is I'll bring my select metrics, which is a measure of either TOEFL, IELTS or GRE. I'll bring this select metrics in my filters, and I'll put a condition that if the value is less than 1 or less than 0.5, it should completely exclude those records. So I'll click on at least, because at most if I'm putting a filter of 117, if in future if I'm selecting some other filter of any university which has values more than 117, then those values we won't be able to see because of this filter, which strictly ranges the filter from, let's say, 1 to 117. If we have values of around let's say 120, then those records won't be available because of this filter. So instead of range of values, I'll bring on at least. So at least the value should be 1. If the value is less than 1, it should completely exclude those records. I'll click on apply, and you can see my data has been again populated correct. Now I need to exclude all of these, so I'll just click on hide card, and I'll change the sheet name to score wise university status, same getting reflected over here. I think that's it for this view. You can add some additional filters like season to filter between spring and fall. Now this view gives you an amazing insight about what is the minimum requirement of the metrics, such as for example GRE. What are the minimum set of marks you need to have to getting admitted by this particular university you are selecting. You can see people above GRE score of around 307 are getting selected in this university, and people below these values are getting rejected. And also, people are getting rejected maybe because of less work experience. You can see their work experience, which I've rejected, are like around 0.083 or zero point 0.5, that is 6 months or 2 months or something. Well, the people who have been selected, they have GRE score more than 307, and also their work experience is around 3 years, 3.16 years, 2.6, 1.6 years of experience. So that's the insight this view is giving. And now let's move towards another view. Towards the third visual, let's keep it simple. I want to see what are the top universities admitting students based on the top scores, be it GRE, IELTS, and TOEFL. Let's see how can we do that. If you remember, I have created already a parameter which can be changed based on user requirements as metrics. So if I want GRE, I can select GRE. If I want average TOEFL scores, I can select TOEFL. So I'll bring my select metrics calculated field in my rows, and I'll bring my university in my columns. And here I get a bar chart which talks about average metric selected based on the university. I'll just show parameter. You can see already parameter selected is GRE. So these are an average GRE scores of all the candidates for this particular university. Now I want to see only for an admitted students. So I'll bring my status in my filters and just select admitted, click on apply. Now presenting the data in this way won't be insightful or won't be that amazing. So let's flip the axis. So there is an option over here. You can swap rows and columns, which basically flips an axis for you. So universities will be on y-axis while metrics will be on my x-axis. So let's click on that and let's click on entire view. Now here I've got a lot of universities, all the universities which I have in my data set, and their average metric values as GRE. Now I want to sort them based on the top GRE scores. So how can I do that? I can just click on this drop down, click on sort, and now I can sort them by a number of ways. I can do this by alphabetic ways, then I can do it in field. So here in this field, I'll select my select metrics calculated field and I'll put it as sort order as descending. And here I'm getting top universities who are in which students are getting admitted based on top GRE scores. You can change metrics to TOEFL, you can change metrics to IELTS, and the universities will be dynamically changing. Now there are 7 null values because we don't have data for these universities for IELTS scores. Let's get back to GRE. Now, presenting all of the universities we have in data in a single view won't be visually appealing. So what I can do, I can just present top 5 or top universities which user can be really interested in. So for that, what I'll do, I'll create a calculated field. I'll create a calculated field name index. Now, index is basically you automatically compute an index for each of the records in your data. So in Tableau, we have a function index, which does the job for you. We'll click on OK, and we'll bring index in my filters. So you can see index have automatically assigned values from 1 to 25 for each of the record of university I have. Now since I want to see top 5 universities, I can just input range of values from 1 to 5 and click on apply. And I can only see data for top universities, top 5 universities. Again, what I'll do is click on edit axis and deselect the include zero option. And one more thing, what I'll do is add the labels. So I'll add aggregated select metrics calculated field in my label. And I'll just format this so that I don't have these 3 decimal places and round off these decimal places to 1 or 2 decimal place. So let's keep it 1 for now. And then finally I'll remove the grid lines rendering in background. That's it. Now I don't want this select metrics in this axis title. So what I'll do, I'll double click and I'll disable the title as blank. And also I'll disable the university field label. I think that's great. Now I'll reduce the size of these bar charts. So I can do this by clicking on the size and reducing, and I can change the color as well. So let's say I'm using this color. So in the meantime, I just renamed the sheet as universities admitting for top scores. We have three major sheets right now with us, which talks about average scores year wise. We have score wise university status and universities admitting for top scores. Now the next two sheets we'll be working on would be the KPIs, which stands for key performance indicators. And here we'll be working on person accepted and person rejected. So whenever you will select a particular university, so let's say you select University at Buffalo Sunny in the dashboard, automatically you will quickly able to track those key performance indicators like how much percent this university has been accepting or admitting students and how many percent of people were rejected. So how can we achieve this? So you can see we have the status in which we have an information about admitted and rejected. So we'll quickly click on create a calculated field and I'll write percent rejected, and I'll use this simple formula which talks about if status is rejected then 1 else 0 end. So basically wherever it will found status as rejected, it will assign the value 1, else it will assign 0. Let's say we have 100 records, out of which 25 are rejected records. So it will assign 25 of those row records as 1 and else 0. And if you're taking a sum of these records, I'll be getting sum of these 25 records as 25 divided by the count of status. So basically it will take a whole count of status which will be 100. So basically 25 divided by 100 will be 0.25, that is 25%. So we'll be getting a value as 25% candidates were rejected in a particular universities. Likewise for the person accepted or admitted. I'll click on OK and I'll create a similar function for admitted. Now I'll quickly see what is an alias for admitted. It is only admit. So basically you can't play around with like the Tableau calculations are not actually case sensitive, so you need to use appropriate words which are used in a particular field. So person admitted, I'll input admit over here. It will work in the same way. What I'll do is I'll drag my person admit on my canvas. You can see my value 0.2883 has been there. Now I'll just click on format and bring this in center. Yeah. So we have got our value in center. I'll just reduce the decimal places to 2 decimal places. This will work. Now I'll just rename the sheet as percent admitted. Now I'll put a university filter over here. So let's say if you're selecting university as Arizona State University, you can see out of a lot of candidates, only 27% of people were admitted to university. So once we are done with the person admitted, we'll duplicate this sheet to see what are the person rejected. I'll just right click on this sheet and I can just directly duplicate this sheet. And instead of person admitted, I'll replace this person admitted by person reject. And you can see for Arizona State University, 34% of people were rejected and person admitted were around 27%. And I'll again reduce the font to 2 decimal places. Okay, 2 decimal places. That works. And I'll rename the sheet as percent rejected. So 2 of our KPIs are ready. Now lastly, let's build a KPI with the measure we didn't use till now. Let's analyze what's the undergrad score of the candidates when they applied to a university. So firstly, I'll bring my undergrad score metric in my column section so that I'll have a separate column for person and CGPA. and I can assign values to individual metrics. Now I'll include my undergrad score in my text so that the text values will be reflected over here, and I'll give aggregation as average. So this is an average percentage and average CGPA of candidates including all the universities. So in the meanwhile, I've included university filter. In university filter, I've selected Arizona State University, and in status, I've selected admit, like your candidates who have been admitted by university. So you can see 72.24 is a percentage of the set of candidates who have got in undergrads who have been admitted in Arizona State University, and their CGPA was around 7.7. And you can also change the university to, let's say, Boston University. You can see percent was around 6.5 and CGPA was around 6.5. So this is what the KPIs looks like. So we have three KPIs: person admitted, person rejected, and this KPI which talks about the undergrad score of the candidates for particular university and status. And we have three visuals which talks about average scores year wise. We have score wise university status and universities admitting for top scores irrespective of GRE, IELTS and TOEFL. So that's it for this video. We built some very basic level views and KPIs which will help us build an impressive dashboard in the next video. I hope this video was helpful and added value to you. Please share this video with your friends, colleagues and someone who would benefit from this. Happy learning. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so much for watching.